Hello, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we answer one of the biggest questions, the most important question in the world. What flavour pucker pie does the YouTube channel The Wurks prefer? Let's find out. Well, in this episode is going to be a little bit different, and the reason why is we're going to do our first ever Zoom call over the internet, completely done 11 out of 10 in true helmet head style. But just in case you're not caught up with the channel and you've literally jumped onto this episode, we sold the fantastic, the awesome, the childhood dream of mine to own motorcycle, the Triumph Bonneville, and it got sold to an awesome YouTube channel called The Wurks that do some incredible stuff with bikes. So the plan originally was we were going to get to meet up, have a bit of a ride out, have a chat and talk about the things that the Wurks channel does. But unfortunately, due to the lockdown measures, that wasn't able to happen and it had to be a contactless sale. So what we decided to do was create a Zoom call where we get to talk to each other and find out all the things that we want to find out. Obviously, more importantly, what pie does the man prefer and what's going to happen to the Bonneville, and let's just find out a little bit about the channel itself. So here we go. Without further ado, I'm going to give you the Zoom call, pretty much unedited, between me and the Wurks channel. I hope you enjoy it. Well, here we go. We've finally got on. I've had to tune it in a bit. I think I might have got the police at one point, but I believe we've got the Wurks with us, the YouTube channel. Are we there?
So this is your camera.
Sorry?
This is your camera then?
Yeah. Oh, of course. The thing about the Bonnie, just before we start with a million questions, I saw your last video and you said it had a box in there. And I know you said it's to do with an alarm, and I'll just say 100% is. It's nothing to do with secret cameras or like audio sounding, like recording. Oh. So don't panic at all.
So most alarms come with SIM cards in them?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially ones that are still active as well. So let's start it off, right? I've got a few questions. What I've done, I've been properly prepared, proper 11 out of 10. So I've got a few questions. We'll go through them. We'll see what happens. But sort of the first question I wanted to ask was your channel. So obviously you've sort of, you've bought the Bonneville off of me. We've managed to sort of link up for the first time. We couldn't link up on the sales day as we sort of hoped to do. But yeah, talk about your channel. What is your channel about?
Oh man. So the channel started out because the original idea, 5 friends of mine and me, we bought cars for less than 500 quid to do the North Coast 500. And that was the whole premise of it. And then nobody took a camera. So I'd already set up the YouTube channel and we were ready to record. We were going to drop videos as we were out there. And then it just didn't happen. And it was sat dormant for ages. And it was always a play on... one of the guys who's in that group is of German descent, which is why we've got the U in Wurks with the accents. And the Wurks element of it came from, in British Leyland days, everything that was a performance vehicle was a Wurks vehicle.
Right, okay.
Like rally and all that. So that's where the name came from, the connotation on that. Then them guys didn't want to get involved so much anymore. So I said, I'm going to use that now it's all set up and I'll focus it more on the bikes. So that's kind of how it panned out.
So the Wurks is pretty much now a solid bike channel, because from what I've seen from what you do, it pretty much is the A team. You seem to buy bikes that need stuff to be done. Obviously mine was perfect in every single way. and then you're sort of going in as one of the 18, queuing the music, sparks are flying, spanners are going in, then you're basically building and fixing bikes.
Yeah, pretty much it. Go from my dad. That's where it comes from.
So which 18 member do you think you are?
Oh God.
Which one is the one?
I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, BA is the big sort of one, isn't he? That kind of cues the music and is it BA?
Yeah.
The whole chain. He's the one who kind of gets down and deep with it.
Yeah, I don't know how much bling though. That's in trouble. I don't think my neck could take that kind of weight.
You should try it. Your next video, stick on a massive chain and then see how much you scratch the bike while you're trying to work on it. How much damage you could possibly cause. I was going to ask you as well, right? So, obviously, being international superstars, and I struggle quite a lot with keeping women away because obviously they come running from many miles. I don't know if you've ever seen an old advert done by Lynx. They literally stole that from me. So what I found is Brute, if I spray Brute on, I mean a lot of Brute, they tend to just keep away for miles. And ever since then, I've never had any issue. But what I tend to do is I have a little thing just before I ride my bike. I grab 2 cans of Brute and I kind of go for a good spray around the bike. How's the Bonnie smelling? Is it still smelling of Brute?
Well, to be honest, like as I'm stripping it apart, obviously that's coming away from it. But that's a brilliant tip for me for when I'm out because I suffer from the same sort of issues. So what I'm going to do, obviously the Bonnie ain't ready to go yet, but with the Thruxton, I think, I don't know about Brute because that seems like that might be trademarked to you now. So what do you reckon to Old Spice?
The only thing with Old Spice is it's a sailor thing. So I don't know if that's more going to keep the men away.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Okay. So it might not work, but you're welcome to try it and then see what happens.
If it ain't the Old Spice, do I have to get written permission from you?
No, I mean, I was thinking, because obviously you're building this. So watching your last video, you did an incredible amount of work. I mean, you stripped that bike right down and it was like, whoa. It was like, I looked at it going, oh, there's the Bonnie. I was like, oh, he's actually cleaned the tank to the point where I'm there going, like, I've never made it look as clean as that. And then I was like, you can see your face in it. And then I was there going like, well, I was thinking if you're got down to the frame, I'm probably sure you could come up with an idea to put Brute on it that attaches. So as you ride at a certain speed, it sprays. I mean, I did a charity trip on a Vision, and I literally had the same thing. I had 2 cans of Brute, and what I use is the world famous 1,000-mile-an-hour duct tape to hold everything on. Yeah. So I just duct tape the whole lot on, and then I just did it so there's a little bit of spray permanently going through the pipes into the engine and pumping out, and it seemed to work really well because again, no women came anywhere near me at any point. Yeah.
That seems like a flawless plan.
Yeah, so I reckon.
I mean, for permanent installation, I mean, they use them systems, don't they, for like fire extinguishers on engines. They could pipe it in that way.
Yeah, I reckon that works. Because it's going to look good, isn't it? That's the problem. It's going to get some attention once it's done. So a couple of cans of Brute on there, you know, might keep you reasonably safe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I might have put on somewhere sponsored by Brute. I might reach out to them.
You know what? If you did reach out to them, don't mention me because they'll probably do. But then at the same time, I swear their sales must have gone up by like 1,000% because I don't think anybody was buying it. And I actually found Brute quite a hard thing to find, but I've suddenly noticed it's popping up in nearly every single shop. So I think Brute's come back, and I'm not saying it's because of me, but I am.
Hashtag helmet head, hashtag Brute.
Yeah, and I mean they used that Vinnie Jones as an actor, and I did my own version. And I guarantee if they looked at the sales again, mine would have sold more.
Yeah.
But they didn't ring, so they must have a problem with my phone. I don't think it's working properly, but I did try.
That royalty check must be waiting. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the millions to pop in from Brute, or at least they can offer me a half share, and then you know the more they sell, the more money I make, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I was going to ask you as well was about your garage. Like, what else have you got there? Because I've obviously watched your video, so I have a general idea, but I can see 3 different bikes. So what bikes have you got, and what are the stories behind the bikes?
So the Thruxton was an impulse buy. That was,
I do like a Thruxton.
year before last. This was when I went to look at the factory Scrambler, like we were talking about before. But seeing that paint job just made me want to buy the new Scrambler.
Right.
And it was all born out. I took the wife's car over to be washed, and where we used to go to the car wash is Sutton Motorcycles. It's a Honda dealer,
Right.
and they've now become East Birmingham Triumph. And when I was waiting for the car to be washed, I was looking and I've seen all these Triumphs there. I said, what's going on? It's a Honda dealer, and that's when I found out. So I went in, seen the new Scrambler, thought, oh yeah, I'll put a down payment on that. That's what I'm going for. And then came back home, give her a car back, and I says, come with me, we'll go over. I want you to have a look at this bike. What do you think? We walked in, she took one look at it and went, no, it's ugly. I don't like the squishy exhaust up the side. I don't like this, that, and the other. But she loves anything that's green, and she loves anything that's kind of retro-y.
Yeah.
And that Thruxton was sat there. She said, but I like that. And straight away the salesman was like, oh, she likes it. We can sort you something out. And then, lo and behold,
You got the Thruxton.
Yeah. So got that. But there's something about it, because it's got the 360-degree crank in it. It's smooth and it's fast.
Yeah.
There ain't much character there for me, which is why I was big after the Scrambler, for the 270 crank. Which is
So,
like,
when you do the Scrambler,
yeah,
obviously I keep wanting to call it the Helmet Head Bonneville, but it's no longer mine because it's the Wurks Future Scrambler. So it's still a Bonneville-ish. So I'll class it as mine. I know that it's not, but once you make it into the Scrambler, are you going to actually use it to do some proper scrambling, some green laning, some adventuring, proper put it through its paces?
That's the plan, yeah. So a friend of mine lives up the road. We built a 125 for him in the summer. And that's kind of done in that kind of street scrambler, chunkier tyres, took all the weight off it and that sort of thing, because he's just done his CBT. And he's now looking to build either an XS650 scrambler or a W650 scrambler.
Wow.
And the whole idea is that when we're allowed out, let out of prison, we'll both be going off green laning, and I'll effectively have my own sidekick.
That'll be good. You need a sidekick. I mean, quickly about that, you need to train them really well. Like, they're dead grumpy. So I can't say what I want to say because I'll probably get in trouble. But if you reference, no, I can't do either. But basically, if you as long as you kind of feed them, they're really good at getting things like your coffee. They take a bit of direction. They can be a bit cheeky, but you just have to tell them. The best thing to do is say, right, stand here, do this, and they'll keep saying no, and you just say, well, you got to do it. And then what I found recently is if you kind of come up with excuses like it's for charity or something like that, they've got no choice. They feel that bad, they have to like do it. Yeah,
it's really, really good because it's kind of like role reversal because he plays in a band, and I do a lot of their repairs and that sort of thing. So when they're on tour, I end up either roadieing for them or guitar tech or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I end up kind of being the whipping boy for him and that group. So then when we go out on the bikes and stuff, it's kind of like, get your own back time.
It's like that whenever it comes down to the garage, because the sidekick is very much like you. He just builds things and makes things, and like I'm very much the person that just wants to stick duct tape on it and go. He will actually like craft out of piece of wood stuff and does a really good job. But yeah, he's very much like that. But at the same time, without me, he's never going to be famous. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it kind of bounces off. Yeah, it bounces off each other. So it'd be likewise for you, let alone he might be really good in his band. Suddenly, without bikes.
Yeah, took out of water.
Yeah. So what's the other bike you've got? Is it BSA?
So yeah, that's convoluted. That is. So it's registered as a Triumph because Triumph and BSA they sent the same bike out with 2 different badges on. But my dad built a bike in the 70s that was a BSA frame, a 250 frame. He rode it round as a 250 for about 70 mile. so I can't act this. Pulled the 250 engine out, took it down the pub, sold it.
Wow.
And then he went to, when CTM were very first established, they bought all the old stock from BSA and hyper-tuned the engines for racing. He went and bought one of the first racing engines from CCM, and said to them, can you put a road gearbox in it? Because I'm going to stick it on the road. And they said, are you mad? He said, probably, but I'm going to do it anyway. So he did that in 77, 78.
Wow, yeah.
That bike ended up in Bike magazine, that sort of thing. As a kid, we had a copy of that magazine in a photo album for, well, ever since. And I just used to sit and look at photos of that, and that was the dream bike, like the poster bike on the wall, I think. And then it come to the point I was getting married, and we were talking about cars and the money you would spend paying for wedding cars and that sort of thing. I was like, I could go towards building a bike. Fair play, like the wife was doing most of the arrangements for the wedding, venues, dresses, food, the lot. And I literally spent the whole time we were prepping for the wedding in the garage building a bike. And my excuse was, it's for me to get to the wedding. If I don't get this done, I ain't going.
So you rode it to your wedding?
Yeah, and for my dad's 50th, I built kind of a tribute to that bike, but did it in like traditional colours. So it's black frame and similar paint job, but a little more toned down, 350. And we both rode together.
That's amazing. That is. So you rode to the wedding together, both on bikes. So that's a forever bike then.
Yeah, for sure. The worst part, like not the worst part, but the weekend before the wedding. So the wedding was on the Monday. On the Friday, I was off work, and I went to. So they got this article, and the photos were taken at the house my dad used to live at with my nan.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, and I found the street and where the garage was and where all these photos in the magazine was taken. And a friend of mine, a photographer, said, I'll come and set the photos for you. So we took the bike there to kind of replicate all the photos in the magazine, but with this bike. And I was riding back through the tunnels in Birmingham. There was all this sort of noise coming out of it. And I thought, I've got to go past my dad's to get to mine. So I pulled up at his house. He came outside and he says, switch that off. He says, that ain't a good noise kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we took the side cover off, dropped a dial gauge down the bore, and there was something like 5 to 10 degrees of crank movement without the piston going anywhere.
Yeah.
Completely blew the big end.
So you
I said, what do I do? Like, the wedding's on Monday. And he says, just leave it here. He says, we'll do an oil change on it. He says, and just ride it like it is. He said, if it blows up, it blows up. So we did the oil change on the Sunday morning. Then Monday morning, I went to theirs, picked the bike up, and we rode it. And the running joke for him, because his has got open pipe on as well. And he said, it's amazing. So I was riding a 350 single BSA flat out all the way to the wedding. He said, and I couldn't hear my exhaust over the sound of the big end in your bike giving up.
But it made it.
It made it there. And then and you couldn't ride it. We stayed at the wedding at the venue. The next day, Emily got a lift back home. I jumped on the bike, rode it here, and I got just into our street. And then it locked up. Yeah.
Wow. So it did exactly what you wanted to do in some ways, and obviously, I take it you have fixed it since, because I've seen quite a few videos on it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's another crank rebuild. There's a company in Doncaster called PES, and I just literally took the crank to them and said, please fix.
That's nice. It's all good then.
But yeah, that's a forever bike, that is. I ain't going anywhere.
So do all of them work now then? Obviously, you're building the Bonneville, but the engine does work. So in theory, it's a working, well, it's not now, it's in bits, but it's a working bike. Is everything else working?
So Thruxton is now fixed after a conversation we had last week.
Yeah.
So it's got a new starter motor. The piece that was in there, it wasn't the flywheel or the ring gear, the drive. A new starter motor, that's now fixed. So it starts, it runs, battery's okay.
So you got all three bikes then are working?
Yeah, and the Harley.
You got a Harley as well?
Yeah.
You've got 4 bikes?
Yeah.
I'm not jealous at all in any way. What Harley?
It's a Sportster, 2002, purple one.
The 800.
883, yeah.
Yeah, 883. But
Yeah, that was. I stripped that and then started doing like a cosmetic rebuild on that.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, suspension upgrades and stuff, and that was all good and back on the road. And then I dropped a wood vice that was in the garage on the primary cover.
No.
Put a big hole in the top of the primary cover. So now every time I take it out, it's just raining at the primary. So I've got a used primary cover on the floor down there to paint and put on. But
wow.
I started a project instead.
I looked at buying I think last year. I talked about it on the channel as well. I looked at buying the Sportster 1200T with the panels on the back. And I massively wanted to buy. I want to own a Harley. It's one of those bikes I've never owned. And many years ago, I've owned quite a lot because I had a bit of a garage and I used to do a bit of buying and selling. But it's one of those bikes I've just never got my hands on. And it's one of those mixed. I think for a biker, it's a mixed kind of place to be. And you've kind of got this love-hate relationship where, and it's a myth, I personally think. You've got people that say Harley riders think that they're better than all the other riders and da-da-da. And I think it's all a big myth. But I think they are a different kind of bike. And obviously you've got ones, you know what they ride like, but it's a completely different style and ride of a bike. And I think everyone's got to experience it.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing like it. I say my dad had 2 Sports or 3 when I was growing up. I used to go pillion on the back of that. And that's the thing that got me the bug. And then I ended up moving back home about 8-9 years ago. And at that point, it was like, now I've got the opportunity to do it. And come across that bike, dived in, and ever since, like, I think that's a forever bike. I don't plan for that to ever kind of go anywhere.
I've got a feeling you're going to end up just keeping them, and then what you'll end up doing is having to extend and have more and more bikes.
This is terrible. Terrible.
I've kind of got a similar issue. The Bonneville was obviously a difficult sale. And my vision always was, and my son was gutted when I sold it as well, because it was the first bike he went on the back of, the first bike my daughter went on the back of as well. But obviously for me, it is all about the channel. So obviously I had to sit there and go, do you know what? I'm not riding it enough and I need a new direction. And that's the whole point. But it's one of those things where I have this vision, and I'm sure we all do as bikers. I want a barn and I want it just full of every style of bike. I don't think there's a bike out there that I wouldn't like to at least ride. You need to own so many different sorts as well. You can't just have one bike for all. You've got to have every style of bike.
This is exactly that. I'd say. I mean, now I've got the driver for then picking the Thruxton. I used to have a Honda XPR 500.
Yeah,
was my first bike. And I did that all in cafe style, and it was pretty much like for like the Thruxton. Obviously not as refined, but
was that your first bike ever on the road?
Yeah.
So did you just do your test and go straight for the 500?
Yeah, I waited. I was driving cars. It was this whole thing. It's like my old man had the sound like a crap song, that didn't it? My old man. But he had this thing of like, go and do your own thing, and it was always drilled into me. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
So then it was natural. Like, I'll go and mess with cars then, because he's saying do your own thing, and his thing is bikes.
Yeah.
So you don't go with bikes and stuff like that. So I dabbled with cars. I still do to an extent, but dabbled with cars for 3 or 4 years. So I didn't do my license until 2010.
Wow.
I was 20, 21, 22, I think.
That's the right age. I mean, laws have changed since I've done it, so I kind of know a little bit. But isn't it sort of direct access over 21 or something now?
Yeah. So I ended up going for that. And the Honda, the 500 Honda, was a bike my dad bought years ago.
Yeah.
When he had to sell the Harley and whatever else. And he then kind of moved on to other things, but would never sell the Honda, because it was always that kind of, he remembered. It was the last bike he ever completely stripped and rebuilt into something else. And
it's a Honda, so it never goes wrong.
Exactly. So that was always part of, and every time he mentioned about selling it, I was like, no, I'll have that. I'm going to have that. And then ultimately, that ended up being my first bike. I run it for 12 months, I think, and then in a completely legal fashion, made Ton Up Club once, and it was never quite the same again.
Completely legal. Completely.
Yes.
Right, another question, okay? So, have you got any adventures planned? I know it's really hard this year, and I'm massively experiencing it myself to put dates on things, but have you got any kind of big adventures planned? Anything that anybody's going to kind of want to follow?
So motorcycle-wise, we're looking at doing something up north. So a couple of years ago, I did Whitby to Blackpool with my dad, just running coast to coast.
Nice.
My dad says he will never ever go to Blackpool again. But that kind of gives me motivation to drag him there. Like I said, my friend up the road, I think he'll be on his big bike by then. But we're going to do something like that. Whether we land in Blackpool, that's the current intention. But my dad will say no. So bike-wise, that's the biggest adventure we got there.
Just don't tell him you're going to Blackpool. What I do with the sidekick on my channel is I just either won't tell him or just make something up to make him come. And then that way, you can just do the same. Tell him you're going somewhere really nice and then just book the hotel in Blackpool. Make sure you arrive there in the dark and you'll be good.
Until he wakes up.
Yeah, he might get a bit arsey, but once you're there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we got that one on the bike. And then, as a side note, I need to start doing some content because we're currently doing the V8 conversion on MGB. And that's kind of some more lockdown content that I can kind of get out there while we're stuck in houses and stuff. So once that's up and running, the group that did the Scotland thing and thought they were going to film everything, the plan is to take the cars we've got at the moment from the last trip, because nobody sold anything, and we're going to go to Sierra Nevada, in Grenada.
Wow.
So that's a big plan.
And you're going to drive an MGB?
Drive an MGB from Tamworth to, we're heading through France, down to the south coast, basically heading for Tarragona, that kind of area, Salou in Spain, and then run the coast road across.
How many times do you think you're going to have to open the bonnet of that and let it cool down?
Oh, man. I don't know. I got some big fans on there now.
That's what I did. When we were speaking before, I was saying, obviously, this isn't like motorbikes. People probably get bored, but once upon a time, I bought an MGB Roadster, and basically it was a knacker, and I completely rebuilt it, sprayed it. It looked amazing. I drove it all the way to Italy and back, but it didn't overheat, but I constantly had to open the bonnet to cool down. And my biggest thing was 2 big Volvo fans on it, fixed it. And if I'd known that before I'd left, it would have not needed every hour the bonnet popping up and all the heat out. But you live and learn.
Well, that last Scotland trip we did, we had the MGB GT and the Roadster, and we did the North Coast 500. Yeah. And it was lashing down, and it wasn't warm around Easter time. And the Roadster, we were going up Applecross, and exactly the same. You do probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles, stop, give it a chance to breathe, go again. So yeah, it's just one of them. But
that Roadster, do you find much vibrations now? Because that's the myth, isn't it? Again, I've never ridden one to know, but the myth of the Harley and the Roadster is it's got that agricultural kind of ride to it, and it's got the vibrations. And I know that obviously they put the rubber mounts in, etc., but there's still a bit of a myth about them. And I appreciate the newer ones, it's completely pretty much gone. But do you find there's quite a bit of vibration through the bike?
Not over. I didn't when I got it and riding it, and it's got billet pegs on as well. So on that, it is raw and it is agricultural. But then my uncle has got a 2010 Sportster,
right,
which is fully rubber mounted, and it's got the later gearbox in there and whatever else, and it's fuel injected. And having ridden that was very much like the Virago I used to own. And for me, it seems like it sucked all the character out of it.
You miss that feeling of the
vibrations. Yeah. You don't feel like you're riding a Harley, in my view. But I suppose for the guys that have just done their license, gone, oh, I'm going to get a Harley, and they've got a newer Sportster because they've been doing rubber mount since 2004, I think.
Yeah, I think I read it something like that. I think it might have been around that kind of time.
So there's that many out there now where the Harley riding experience is a rubber mounted Sportster. So I suppose for those guys getting back on an older one,
yeah,
would probably be a bit like, what the bloody hell's this thing?
I'm going to grab a glass of wine really quickly.
Do it.
Back in 2 seconds, literally. That's like a whole beer I've drunk during that.
Yeah.
So I do have the ultimate question, right? I need to ask, because it's like, you obviously, when you sent down the money for the bike and the courier, you sent down a pucker pie. So we instantly knew that we were going to get on, because it's like a rite of passage, isn't it, into like someone's life. You go, here's pie, and it's almost like there's like a sound of like nuns singing. Exactly, it's got to be done. But of course, there's always the big question, the ultimate question, and it's, which is your favourite flavour pie?
Steak and kidney.
That's a nice pie.
All day long.
Yeah.
I do something a bit disgusting though. There is something disgusting I do every time I have steak and kidney pie.
Go on.
I don't know how you can feel about this.
Go on.
You could just end the Zoom calls.
We
can't do this no more. I always get the fork. First of all, what do you class as upside down for a pie?
So what do I what?
What do you class as upside down for a pie when you eat it?
Well, I class it is upside down is if you turned it off and just lifted off the lid, then it's upside down.
No, you see, that's the right way up.
Right, okay.
Because you start soft side and then have the crust after.
So that's what you do?
No, you see, the disgusting thing is, because then you've got soft side, I break the base with a fork.
Right.
And then malt vinegar.
But you enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
You might destroy it, but you enjoy it. It's like the first time the sidekick and I ever shared a pie, he took the crust off and started stuffing it with chips. Eating it like that, and there was a level of me going like, I mean, I can understand dipping the chips in the sauce that brought out of it, but at the same time, a pie's a pie. However you enjoy it, it's like a good drink, isn't it? It's the most important thing is you enjoy it. And I mean, obviously, I get like a shipping container from Pucker sent to me on a regular basis to keep me in pie. I'm very lucky on that basis. That's obviously why I'm so slim, because it's a very good diet food. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works for me. But yeah, so that's.
Have you angled for that sponsorship yet?
Sorry?
Helmet Head sponsored by Pucker Pie.
Well, you see, I was actually tempted to write to Pucker, because I generally feel like Pucker do need a face, and I actually feel like we endorse them quite well. There's been, again, an increase in sales, surely, from people going out and buying pie. We have it a lot in the comments. People turn around and say, I'm now going to have to go out and buy pie. But then at the same time, I don't know if I'm crossing a boundary by putting Pucker up there, because they need to come to me. At this point, I feel like if I go to them, it's almost like a bit of a begging for the Pucker Pie sponsorship.
Yeah, the level you're at. I agree with that.
At the same time, if anybody wants to email Pucker with a link to the channel and suggest that, then I'm definitely open to any kind of sponsorship at all. It's like, I mean, obviously the channel's received quite a lot of free things. We've got like £1,000 drone. We've got, what is it, 300 and something pound 360 camera. So I am very lucky. There's no doubt about that. But it's, for me, about the sponsorship, it's almost like they get more from you than you get from them, because at the end of the day, they're getting to see it being used. People are buying it. There's a link in sort of the description for people to buy stuff. And I think it'll be a little bit like that with Pucker. I think they'll probably get a lot more from me than what I'd get from them. But they want to pump me like £1,000 or so a month to become, as the Helmet Head sort of thing starts, it's sponsored by Pucker Pie. And if they want to put the face all over Pucker, it could happen.
What payment would it take? How many pies?
Well, I'd like £1,000 a month minimum, and up.
And 1,000 pies.
I'd probably do it for a pie a week, if I'm honest. They are really good pies, so that's pretty much the truth of it. But I'd like some kind of money. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. The future of the Head Channel and Pucker Pie.
Yeah, man. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all of my questions done. I mean, I'm massively excited, obviously, to see the Bonneville happen. My personal plan would be to be able to come up once that bike's done. Obviously, once lockdown's done and we're all fine, and potentially, I would like to ride it because I think it would be an absolute honour to have a go on that bike and get some pictures. And I mean, I won't do anything like rude to it because obviously I do love that bike. I will keep my hands well protected with gloves. But it would be really cool, yeah, if we could generally turn back up, revisit the bike and show everybody what, two sort of together, what you've done and go through it again. Yeah,
sure. That's how we'll go all over it. Say it's this notion of like, it's something so precious to you in the state it was in, like, in that format. So then to go and do something completely different with it, it is still that thing of like, kind of the nervousness of like, this was your bike. I know it doesn't look like your bike anymore, but
yeah, exactly. I think the thing of it is that again, it was a tough decision to make to sell it, and I'm lucky because you've bought it, and it's not just going to end up being a bike that someone's going to trash. It's like you're obviously going to make it into an awesome bike, and I'm a bit jealous I didn't think of it as well, to be honest, because it'll be incredible, and then it will live on, and then you'll say it's a forever bike, but I'll just nick it and then I'll bring it back, and then it can live back become the Helmet Head Scrambler then. The only problem is where I live, so it might not work, but I might move. You never know.
This thing over a few months where it keeps going back and forth, just keeps getting stolen.
You won't need a tracker. You can just, I'll give you a key to the garage. You can just come and collect it, and I can get it back again. It'll work out fine. Yeah, but no, sure. On a general basis, I'm actually dead excited. It's nice to see something that's been part of this channel then become part of your channel, and then I'm sure lots of people from my channel are massively keen to see how it sort of happens and what it's going to end up looking like. I just think it's really cool. I really do. And I think the bike was at the right age, in my opinion. And again, it was used all year round. It's been through quite a lot of riding with me. I've ridden it all the way across France in all sorts of weathers and stuff like that. And I think it's a new lease of life. And I don't really think that bike might not get another 10 years worth of use. With what you're doing, it's going to get 10 more years at least and plus. So it's quite an incredible journey. I'm excited. I am gutted to sell it, but I'm excited. Yeah. So best of both worlds.
No, it's brilliant. People won't be aware, like the conversations we were having just as the auction was going on and that sort of thing. I asked you a few questions about it and kind of where it been, what it had done, and what your thoughts were about it coming to another channel and that sort of thing. So it stays kind of, because it's a character of its own, isn't it? Like it's.
To be honest, I mean, again, you're changing engines, so it won't make any difference. But the manual choke side of it sounds really weird, but I love that. It's a 2010 plate bike. It's like, it's got a choke. It's like, wow, I've not used a choke in donkeys. So it was like, it was proper, for me, it was like a good fixture. And like I said, like something I wanted to own for a long time. And back then I couldn't really afford it, especially when I was working in the ambulance side of things. So it's one of those bikes that sat there and they hold their money so well. So when I'm glad I've owned one. And for me, I think as the person I am and the things that I do, I'll own another one, but it'll be a modern one because I generally, for me as a person, like you're very much a person that will strip and rebuild a bike. And I would, but it's not something I want to do personally. It's something I'd give a psychic to do. So yeah, I will own another one day, but right now I think it's absolutely awesome. That's going to become something really cool. I'm going to get to ride it, hopefully.
Sure.
Visit. Yeah, so it's all going to be cool.
So the driver for me was like you said, we're getting the other bike for the channel for you to make your channel go in a different direction or open up other opportunities. For me, it was that whole thing of lockdown and then creating content. The whole reason I ended up buying the bike to build, There's like something I can do in here and still carry on doing. And it's the perfect bike to do it with. It really is.
It was quite funny because the auction, obviously we'd spoken and had quite a lot. It had, I can't remember how many views that bike had got, and it was like 200 to 300 people were like following it, and it was going. I was like, I was like hoping that you were going to win it, because I thought, well, it's at least it'll be on a YouTube channel. At least I'll be able to see it. So it was one of those things. And when it sold, obviously I didn't have any idea what eBay name, and obviously we won't talk about it, but what eBay name that you were. So when it sold, I started going, I wonder if he bought it. And then obviously there was like a nearly 24-hour delay, and I'm there going like, do I email them? I'm like, I hope they bought it. Your email to me was like, well, it's going to stay on YouTube. I was like, yes. I was like, I get to see it.
Like, even in my video, like say, it went through and like won the auction and whatnot, and there's like genuine, like, because I know a lot like YouTube channels, a lot can be scripted or this, that, and the other, and it was absolutely genuine. I watched the end of that auction, and they had like 10 or 15 seconds. I was like, this is happening. Like, I'm doing this. I genuinely need to now go and think about this. The next portion of that video is the next day, and it was just after I'd sent you that email to say, right, yeah, well, we've done it, we're carrying on, here we go.
I saw you do the video talking about it, obviously, before the auction, and I had this vision of your next video going, well, it got outbid, and I was at the last second. And I was like, oh, but you won it. So it's all that matters is you got it. So it's really interesting. It's definitely, like, you're putting a new engine in it, or a different engine. I mean, are you going to be cutting the frame at all?
So there'll be probably a chop at the back and a loop put in.
Right.
So a little bit shorter, probably. I've got the Olin shocks. It's the weird thing because I'd already kind of gone down the road of I'm going to build a Scrambler, and then I bought a load of parts. So I've got like the front end off a Triumph Tiger 800, the bars and whatever else, and I've got the shocks off a Scrambler XC and different things. So I'd already kind of got that rolling.
Yeah.
And now it's just fathoming out different bits. So I say I'm going to chop the rear loop, got to get that front end conversion done. Swap it to a 270-degree crank, and then it'll pretty much go back together. Then it's got to go to a company in Nottingham who I've been speaking to, and they're going to do a custom aluminium swing arm for the rear.
Oh wow!
Get the geometry out to run those shocks with it and jack it up, so the ground clearance will be probably 3 times what it was.
And I take it you're going to be changing the wheels to spoke, obviously off-roading.
Yeah, so it'll be. I've got a set of Tiger XC spoke rims with XL rims and twin disc front on the way.
Fantastic. So, I wonder if that's my old Tiger that might not have survived.
Anyway, so it's going to be a really cool bike when it's done. It's something a bit different. It's that whole thing of having it built, not bought, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it would be a unique bike as well. It'd be interesting to see, especially even to see what it's going to be worth as well, because obviously the Scrambler is that little bit more money. Obviously, you've got the Bonneville at a fair price, so it'll be interesting to see once it's built. Yeah, what sort of it's going to be worth, what it's going to look like. Are you going to sort of go for more the modern look of Scrambler?
I think, for the most part, I say it's going to be Scrambler with ground clearance, that sort of thing. The only caveat that's been put in from the boss.
Yeah. It's got green.
It's not having a high level exhaust.
Right. Okay.
High level exhaust, so it's going to have the 2-into-1 tracker style exhaust, but kept at frame level. So you still got the ground clearance.
So you're going to have it slightly up though, because you can't do river crossing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But so that's the only condition, because like we do a lot. We stay over in Wales quite a bit. Her parents have got a caravan on Anglesey.
Fantastic.
So we do a lot. A bit over last year and the year before, we were going up there quite a bit. So I'd gone down the road. I've seen the roads down there and that sort of thing. It's all narrow stuff. We're getting stuck with the car all the time. It'd be great to be here on the bike. And I was looking at XT500s and that sort of thing to go, just have a bike to go to Wales on. And that's when the seed was planted and that sort of thing.
and then it grew and grew into when you got it. It'd be good, especially if you end up learning the off-road trails in Wales, because that's a warm-up place I usually do for this channel that I'm going to try my best not to do this year, but I'll probably end up going back. I love Wales. I think, especially when you hit the Brecons and stuff, it's absolutely fantastic. But if you ever learn all the trails and the off-roading, give us a shout, because I'd love for someone to take me literally on a tour through Wales doing that kind of riding, because I don't know it. I know you can figure it out, but what a lot of people don't get about green lanes and by roads, etc., is that a lot of them are closed or they're blocked off, or there's lots of things, issues with them, and you can't turn your bike around. So it takes a little bit of learning and hunting to sort of work out what is really accessible, what you can get down, and what's sort of workable. So if you learn all of that and save me all the hassle, we'll do it. Except from you're doing that. I'll be on the CB500, and that will probably kick ass, to be honest, out of the CB500 as a scrambler.
Bring the monkey, couldn't you?
Well, then I'd have the best bike in the world, so it wouldn't be very fair, would it?
Seriously, after all this work.
Yeah, but the monkey's the monkey. Yeah. How many little bikes like that go through rivers? And it's, to be fair to that monkey, it is a stock bike, and I've been really weighing up if it's going to be. I'm really tempted to start pimping it up, starting to look at changing things, trying to add some more brake horsepower, better off-road wheels, even better suspension, especially on the back. But I like a stock bike. I'm a stock bike person. I say that, I like every bike, to be honest, but I'm very tempted at the minute. So there is a potential for the future for that bike to get a lot of changes, potentially, especially on the channel, because, again, there's only so much you can film the same bike, and there's adventures we haven't done on it, but I can see it. And the thing of it is, as well, if I do it, I don't want it to be like everyone else's. So I don't know how much you follow the monkey, but there's the exhaust that they sell at the dealership. It's £400-500. I probably wouldn't buy that myself. I'd go for something a little bit different. Exactly the same with the suspension. I wouldn't probably go for the mainstream. I'd pick something a little bit different and do something a bit different with it. I mean, be interesting to see how fast I could get that bike to go.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then obviously the sidekick as well. Not obviously I've let him win a lot of the recent competitions, but he's not he's not beat me at all properly in any way. But I need to win. So it's almost like a of me now going, I'll pimp it just to make sure that I win. Yeah,
gotta do it, man. Yeah. Absolutely gotta do it. I say it's a thing with I like the idea. I'd like to think I was up for stock motorcycles, and as it comes out, and I could be happy. Yeah. If I could be that person, that'd be great for me. Which is my entire intention with the Thruxton. I was like, I'll buy that. It's done. It looks great. I'm there, and just something in me says, I can't attach.
I think
until I get the spanners out. I don't know what it is.
There's a thing I think about bikes in general. I think, again, like I said, I love stock. But there's a level of, not boredom, but there's a level of you going, I've done it, and now I need something different. And then there's a decision in your head that goes, do I do something with this, or do I change it? Do you know what I mean? So for me, again, Bonnie was, actually, I want the channel to go onto something different. And I've done adventure riding. I've done like the Tiger. I've had a GS 1200. I have done it, but I wanted to do something entry level. And I think the 500 being an A2 license is a very interesting bike. And there is big channels out there using the 500, but I want to do it a proper kind of green lane, the real use of the bike, and then add to it, etc. And I think for the channel, I still think it's one of the best A2 bikes that you can buy. That's kind of where I want to go, and that was the reason why I like the Bonnie stayed as it was. But I think if I'd kept the Bonnie, I'd already sat there going, well, the rear suspension's like being on a brick, so that would have been a change straight away if I decided to keep it. The look for me with the brown seat and the black just works so well. So it would have been that on the back suspension, and then the other side would have probably had to have the engine off at some point, and where all Bonnevilles, as you've seen, the corrosion, that was a bugbear for me. So I think that would have had to have gone off and probably been machined and painted again, and having it back to that kind of classic look. But what you're doing is obviously 10 times better than that. So I just think there's a level. I think any bike you get to a level.
I say for me, I could have. I was looking at the Thruxton because the whole thing of moving over to the Scrambler, I could have taken the Thruxton and pulled it apart and done the same thing, the same frame, same engine, and that sort of thing. But it was that thing of like, it is the Thruxton. And then when I come across your Bonnie as the SC, the idea of turning that into a Scrambler, it's very much akin to what they did when Scramblers weren't available. Like, you take the base factory model and then turn it into what you want it to be, rather than, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've got a customization, haven't they? They've got something to play with. It's such a basic bike. It opens up loads. It really does.
Yeah.
That frame, I mean, I've never seen the frame, so you should pin it down. But even that, you can see how easy it is to hide the wires, the accessibility of it. And it's simple. It's a simple bike. It's not LED. It's not got the ECU side that will kick on it. It's all very simple for you to do.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a great build once it starts rolling. So, I mean, tore it apart pretty quick. They never go back together as fast as you take them apart, that's for sure.
So how many bolts have you broken, taken apart? Any?
No.
So that's the difference between me and you. I break probably at least 3 or 4 bolts. And I do that weird thing every time of looking at it going, I've now got to go and source this size bolt with this thread. You don't know the length.
Yeah. The only thing I found it was peculiar when taking it apart, and there was a running joke, I think, in like the 80s and the 90s about Honda, of all people,
right?
That they build the airbox and then build the bike around it. But that's like part number 1.
Yeah.
And with this, you have to take all the back wheel assembly out to get the airbox out. Strip the whole back of the bike to get it out.
Yeah, I think
you need planning permission for the thing.
It's the same as doing the plugs, though. You've got to take off the tank to be able to change plugs. How annoying is that? It's like, what is that about? And then when I put on the luggage rack, the sassy bar on the back, that I had to drop the rear mudguard down to put that in. And you sit there again going, come on, it's like 4 bolts. It's like, why have they made it so difficult? But engineering, but it works. That's sort of the biggest thing.
But so it'd be interesting to see, because I know stock, the dry weight is something like 240 kilos.
Oh, okay. So it should be lighter though, really, shouldn't it? If you're putting on.
Yeah. So there was a team of geometry engineers that did the 800 Tiger in Spain, and they built a bike called the Tramantana Scrambler, and they took a factory Bonnie after hours and turned it into a Scrambler.
Wow.
With their XC geometry, and stripped a load of weight off it. And they got that bike down to 160 kilos, I think it was.
Gee, that is light, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 80 kilos on the bike. So that's my kind of my target point.
Weight saving.
Yeah, because I mean, you stuck with the weight of the engine and that sort of thing. But say once they used a stock steel swing arm and that sort of thing, and there's some big clamps for the suspension and different bits. So hopefully, like I say, if I can get to 150, I'd be really, really chuffed.
Yeah, that'd be impressive, massively impressive. But you're going to keep the Thruxton as a Thruxton.
I think so. To be fair,
it's prime to take the Thruxton apart.
Yeah, it depends how much I fall in love with the Scrambler as well. Because if we end up going out, the Thruxton came out because the Harley's now solo seat.
Yeah.
And BSAs, we look just daft when we go two up on the BSA. I end up sitting on the tank and sort of thing. So the Thruxton was our 2-up bike that me and the wife could go out on and wherever, Sundays or that sort of thing. Whereas if the Scrambler becomes that, if the Thruxton ends up sitting there, then that might end up
sell it.
finding a new home. But yeah, it's that thing though, it's hard, isn't it, letting them go.
It is. I think especially at the right age as well, because you know that they are going to be classics, and it's that real hard sort of thing of going, you know that there's every year bikes get to a certain age and they become less and less. And you think, well, do I just keep it? Do I just keep it? And it's just, there's a thing about Triumph, I think, for a lot of us, because I obviously a massive Triumph fan. Obviously, I've had quite a few, and I know I was a Honda years ago. I used to do a bit of racing, and that was to do with Honda back in the day. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a thing about Triumph, and if I've visited the Hinckley factory quite a few times, and it's a little bit of pride. You kind of sit there and go, do you know what? This company that's gone through so much history And they are, at the minute, they are literally, as a company, they are having financial issues. They've had to move a lot of their manufacturing out. There's been a lot of protests, not as so much strikes, but a lot of protests going on in the factory. But they're a brand like many that are just trying so hard to keep afloat, but they're still making more and more bikes, more and more better bikes. But it's pride. You walk around that place and you really sit there going, wow, this is a lot of history about a brand. And well, I know Norton is the same to, you know, obviously people argue about this, but to a degree, but Triumph has been going for a hell of a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Without hiatus as well. I mean, they had the bit in the 80s and stuff, but that comeback and that sort of thing. Nobody else has done that to that level, really, to go out of business the way they did with at the end of the 70s. A little bit of a flirt in the 80s, but then to come back the way they have compared to other manufacturers. And, you know, Norton, they have a dabble, don't they? And they have 3 or 4 good years. And then
I was just kind of like Norton. I mean, I going back to like going to bike shows, going to the NEC. I remember sitting on a Norton thinking they still feel like expensive. They feel really expensive bikes to sit on. And obviously, I've never owned a Norton, but obviously, we know the history of obviously the director, the guy that thing in all the stuff, and the companies bought them out. Everyone knows all that, but they haven't still. He didn't do what they did with Triumph. He didn't sell enough bikes, and he did the thing that he did. And I won't go into it because of law and courts and stuff like that. But he did what he did, and it's given Norton another kick back, sort of thing. And they've got to rebuild a lot of respect with a lot of bikers before people go, do you know what, I'm going to buy one, because people are worried about losing money. But Triumph have done the little bit the opposite. They've kept that British thing. Norton didn't. They kind of went off a little bit. They modernised it. Where Triumph have, they've kept. You can look at a new Bonnie, like the T100, and you can look at you know, the helmet head now of the Wurks Bonnie. Put them next together. They still look the same. It looks newer, but it's still got the fundamentals.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Triumph do every time.
Yep.
And same with
even like Trident and the Adventure and that sort of thing. Had the triple, but it's like that tank, that look, mud guards and all that sort of thing. It keeps that core essence from it.
Exactly, and that they do that well. That Trident looks like an interesting bike. I think for entry level, very nice. The rear end of that bike, I think, is just what sells it. Is that one piece look. That straight line, it's really impressive. Hopefully, I'm in talks with Triumph, as I spoke to you about, and hopefully we're going to get some 2021 test rides. I'm hoping I'm going to get my chance to have a go on that and some of the others. Same with Honda, the same with Zero Motorcycles. This is kind of my plan for the channel, is we're going to go off and do some cool adventures, some stuff together to view other channels I've done stuff with, like Hoppo, Fentor, Another Hipster, all those people. We're hoping to do stuff through this year, if lockdown lets us. So we'll have the adventures, we'll have collabs, we'll have the crazy stuff, and hopefully we'll have these 2021 test rides to really give it'll be a very the channel will be so diverse, it'll be mad, but it's different. And I think that's content-wise is what, as a YouTuber, you've got to do. And I'm sure the same with your channel. When you've done your Scrambler, there'll be another project and you'll go to a classic and you'll probably go to something newer. And it's constant.
Yeah, so if we can get some sort of freedom to at least ride the bikes and that sort of thing, because there's obviously the 4 that are here now, the Build and the Scrambler, but then my dad's got his 350 BSA, so I can do like a back-to-back between them two. There's he's got a really, really nice late 70s Ducati Desmo twin. Like Daytona yellow, beautiful looking bike that he's restored, that just sat in the shed. So get that out on the road and ride that. And then an absolute mad thing, it'd be quite cool. Like, you're probably well into this. He's got a Suzuki van with a DRZ 404 engine in. That was hyper-tuned by CCM with a flat slide carb, high lift cam. Up at like 57 horsepower.
So has that been done with modern CCM or old CCM?
Yeah, modern CCM.
Okay.
So they bought the engines in from Suzuki and then hyper-tuned them. And then he bought the engine as a crate engine from CCM. So kind of akin to what he did in the 70s.
Yeah.
Bought it from CCM, and then he got this van, and he did it when I was learning to ride. So the school I was learning to ride at, I was riding the R6, and their CBT bikes were vans. So he was coming up with me when I was going to ride out, and he was measuring up all the learner bikes. And we went and got a van. He's then stuck this 404 in there. It's got radiators on the side because the DLZ's water cooled.
Yeah.
So it's got radiators sticking out the side like an old, Scott or something like that.
You got a special bike then?
Yeah, absolutely mega thing. It's got a Triumph Speed triple rear shock in it, so it's jacked up at the back, but it's still on the 7.25-inch disc at the front with the little caliper.
Yeah.
You got 57 horsepower and the standard 125 brakes.
Just a proper mongrel of a bike, but
at a glance,
a bit.
At an absolute glance, it looks like a van. Like, it's only when you suddenly go, it's got radiators. And then things start to jump out to you. But yeah, absolutely killer bike. Like, just something just unique. It's that thing of having something very, very different.
Yeah, something
for
different.
him, it was all about, he had a knee replacement and he can't hold the weight. So he sold his Harley and he wanted something really light.
Yeah.
But also unique and different. And he built this thing, and it's just, he absolutely loves it. He adores the thing. It's
the thing about unique bikes, isn't it? It's either very much when you stop and you look at either a bike you really like Harley, a Bonneville, a Speedmaster, whatever your thing is, you'll stop and go, I like that. I wish I owned that. And then you also then stop at the bikes either really expensive that you can never afford, or the most unique thing that you can see. And even if that's right down to a scooter that looks bonkers, you'll still stop and go, what have they done to that? It's a natural thing.
Yeah, it's that thing for me now, because we did some rallies a couple of years ago and whatnot, and I go on the BSA.
Yeah.
And I'm riding that along, it's bright orange, got a gold frame, it's got a chrome swing arm. It looks, it's so 70s, it's like, it almost hurts.
Yeah. And
we go on these rallies, and I park up thinking, I did that like that. And I park it next to his van, and everybody comes up going, what's this? Like, oh, it's got radiators. I'm thinking, look at my bike.
What about mine?
He just sits there gloating, I'll have a tin and go and do whatever he wants to do and that. But yeah, just he's still got it even now, just to be able to build something that's just so unique.
Yeah, it's something really special.
And it's my admiration for him, because for me, I worked in engineering, so if I wanted something, I'd just go and see somebody that I knew and say, "Can you machine me one of these?" Or I was really privileged in that sense. Whereas he does it all in the shed with a hammer and a file and a little bit of metal.
That's the old school way, isn't it? Get the hammer out, just bashing the rubbish out of it. Boom, boom, boom. And then you're like,
I was a machining apprentice and that sort of thing. So I'd say to him, "Oh, no, I can do that for you." I was like, no, I got it. I can do it. And he would.
Imagine what the tank's like with massive bangs all around it. But it works.
He turn up, and he always does a stunning job. I mean, his bike is meticulous looked at. It's always so clean. I mean, I have to do a video about it, but like, you turn up at the house, you open the front door, and the bike is there leaning up the stairs.
You've got to do a video about
it. In the house the whole time. It doesn't go in the garden. And like, he says he's going to do something. You turn up and you think, how did you do that in this tiny little shed that's already got a bike and a bench? You got this little gap in between, and he can barely bend down because his knees and his back are done in, but he's still just like,
still done it.
I got it.
That's going to be you probably with all these projects. You'll get to a point where your knees are shot, your back shot, you'll still be there with your Zimmer frame, your spanner. Yeah. I will finish building this one.
It's an inspiration, I say. For me, like, I go over there, I try and be like, I'll do that for you, Dad. Don't worry about it. No, I got it. And you watch him get down because he can't bend that knee now because he's got a false knee. But he will lie down on the floor and do his oil change, do it all, like change the wheels out and stuff like that. And they just think, incredible.
That's the independence, though, isn't it? I think as everybody gets older, you're very much like you almost upset in your ways. It's like, this is what I do. This is what I want to do. I don't want help. This is how it's going to happen.
I mean, on the flip side, I speak to my mum and I say, like, it's amazing he still does it. And she's, yeah, but you don't see him for 3 days after when he's lay on the sofa and he doesn't want to talk to anybody. He can't move.
In pain, this might be brave.
Totem-all, like they're going out of fashion. But
but he did it. He did the oil change.
Yeah. He got that some plug and he changed that filter. So yeah.
Bless him. That's what we'll all be like, though, won't we? We'll all be playing with bikes when we go over there.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be the time to end it. I think people have been listening to us yabbering on for a long time. Well, it'd be cool if we can redo it though. If we can come back, have another Zoom call. We're in lockdown. We're both, all content people. We are struggling to make stuff, and this may be the foreseeable future until we get out of lockdown. So, if you do some load more work and we can come back and have a little bit of a walk around, that'd be really cool.
So you get some more people and we can have a group beer and a waffle.
Chat about bikes.
Then the world will be interested in the things,
Well, before we disappear, before I end this recording, I just want to turn and say to obviously my side of this on the subscriber level, you've met the guy, the Wurks, you've seen where the Bonnevilles go. A lot of you have already gone to subscribe to the channel to check it out. I've got one of those stickers that's going to go on one of my bikes, and but yeah, please give him a subscribe to his channel. Check out the Bonnie. It's going to be an interesting channel just to follow, not just the Bonnie but the rest. I'd really appreciate it. Obviously, give the videos a thumbs up. We're both going to release hopefully we'll both release this, so you'll see both different angles, one from mine and one from yours, and then hopefully we'll get some stuff done in the future. But just thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this getting drunk and talking about bikes.
What are the three things? Well,
eat pie, ride motorcycles, be happy. But there's still an outro to go for my video that's pre-made already, just to finish that off.
Wow.
Anyway, let's just say goodbye, guys.
Well, there you go. What an absolutely legend of a guy. I mean, I don't know about you, but I am going to be following that Scrambler build and checking out that Wurks channel because the guy is just absolutely awesome. He quite clearly is from the A-team. He quite clearly puts the music on and sends the sparks flying. And I'm dead excited to see what he does with that bike. And I'm dead excited about going back and revisiting it once it's done. And hopefully he'll let me have a ride on it. If not, I will probably have to steal it, ride off into the sunset with the police sirens all behind me, and it'll be an absolutely epic dramatic piece of footage. But hey, hopefully he'll just let me have a quick spin. But anyway guys, that's it for this episode pretty much. I just want to turn around and say a massive thank you to my patrons. You guys are absolute legends. Without your support and your help, this channel could not continue going the way that it's going. So thank you so much. If you're interested in supporting this channel, please click in the link below. You get to see the episodes first, and you get to sort of get involved in the comments and the chatting on the Patreon site. So I do appreciate if you could take a look. The same as if you haven't subscribed, please hit that bell button, that subscription button, and then right back and hit that thumbs up button and leave us a comment. I would appreciate that too. And of course, if you're interested in some of the Helmet Head merchandise, there's all the links down there to the shop where you can buy the best hoodie in the world, the cup that tastes 1,000,000 times better than any other drink when you pour it in, not proven guaranteed in any way, and all the other merchandise, and there is plenty of it. And again, it helps support the channel, so please check that out, as well as any of the kit that I use. There's all links down there to make life easier. Everything's in the description. Anyway guys, I just want to turn around and say thank you so much for watching this episode. And of course, there's only 3 things in life that are the most important thing to turn around and say what we need to live by, and the gospel. And of course, that's eat pies, ride motorcycles, and be happy. See you in the next crazy Helmet Head adventure. Bye bye.
You know that I'ma keep it cool. With you I feel like breaking rules. On the edge, looking out with no parachute. You know I'm dreaming about us too.